and welcome to today's Oil for the Journey oil change. I am your journey reader, Denise Joyner, and today we are going to delve into Acts chapters 22 through 24, and it's a juicy text in the book of Acts, written, some people say this is the second book or second volume to Luke's gospel. It's written by Luke as well. And it's a juicy tale, if you will, of Paul recounting his conversion experience and, of course, now facing an arrest and charges against him. First, I want to go through the time of this trial, if you will. The time period is believed to be AD 59. Jesus died around what's believed to be AD 33. So this would have been 26 years later. And Paul is vividly recounting his experience meeting Jesus on the road to Damascus in defense after he was arrested by the Jews. Now, what's very interesting is that Paul himself is a Jew and a Roman citizen. And before I go into that, I mean, how could the two meet, right? Because the Romans were considered Gentiles, and Paul's commission when he was apprehended back in Acts chapter 9, I shouldn't say apprehended, it sounds like he did something wrong, but when he was confronted on the road to Damascus in Acts chapter 9, he was on a mission to Jerusalem to offer worship and even give to the poor that he deemed fit to receive. But he was a Jew and a committed, devout Pharisee at that, studied under Gamaliel, which is a very prominent Jewish teacher of that day. And he was well known. So Paul here is being arrested and accused, and I'll go over his accusations in a moment, his charges, by the Jews, by his own fellow men. Okay? And Paul was charged for one, stirring up riots throughout the empire, so that's sedition or rebellion. He was charged too for being a ringleader to the Nazarene sect. So at that time, AD 59, around about that time, the Way was the name given to Christ followers. It was called a Nazarene sect because Jesus was from the small village of Nazareth, which was like a no-count village, mind you. So it's like saying Jesus was from the ghetto, the hood, why you following this hood rat, that's kind of like an insult for this Pharisee to be proclaiming that his way is truth, that Jesus is righteous. So he was charged for that, basically for proselytizing this Nazarene sect, which is Christianity. And lastly, he was being charged on under Roman law for desecrating the temple. And really what he was going there for was to offer worship as a Jew as well. But it was desecration of the temple because he was speaking in Jerusalem about Jesus, and they saw that as blasphemous and desecrating the temple, to be doing that in Yahweh's holy temple. Okay, so that's the overview of who Paul was and his charges. And as I said, the irony here is alarming because it's his own people, the Jews, taking him in. I want to note that the Sanhedrin was a council, a religious council comprised of heads of Sadducees and Pharisees. The Pharisees believed, as a Jewish sect, believe in the resurrection of the dead and angels and demons, the spiritual realm. The Sadducees did not. They were pretty much what we call fatalists. They believe everything is what it is, and there was nothing else to it. You obeyed the law and the law of Moses, and that was it. Just cut and dry, black and white. There was nothing else to it other than that. So they were at odds, but the Sanhedrin was where they came together. And why did they come together? Because they both followed the Mosaic law, and they came together as a governing body to hold other Jews accountable if they committed unrighteous acts. So this was who Paul was testifying before. And remember, his name was Saul. Back in Acts chapter 9, his name was Saul. And then on the road to Damascus, meeting Jesus, and Jesus telling him to go to preach the gospel and stop persecuting other Christians, which he did. He killed other Christians before his conversion. So he was now converted, and also in name, which is very typical for that time, for names to change. Remember, Jacob's name changed to Israel. So after he saw the light, in Abram to Abraham. So it's a very Jewish thing, if you will, in ancient tradition, for names to be changed. So once you became righteous, I guess, much more devout in your following of Yahweh's teachings. So a couple of things to just note here. Again, Paul was being persecuted by his own, and they really wanted to kill him because they wanted to squash this teaching of Jesus, which was growing rapidly 20 plus years after Christ's death and resurrection. And they wanted to kill him. His nephew, Paul's nephew, came to rescue, found this out, and said, "You know what? Let me take you to Rome." And there they went to Governor Felix, and Governor Felix realized, actually, before they killed Paul, they tried to kill Paul or get him killed in his arrest. He was a Roman citizen, and Romans didn't kill their own. All right, so that got him off that level from that judgment from the Sanhedrin to be taken to Roman soldiers and flogged, and which was like a whip with glass in it, shards of glass and metal to like tear at the skin while you were being whipped. So that was averted because Paul was actually a Roman citizen, which I find quite interesting, but I don't have time to digress into that. So moving on, he goes to Felix. He's a governor of Judea, Roman governor at that, and they're trying to get Paul convicted to death. And, Paul presents his case, and basically in his defense, Paul is like, they're getting all these charges on me, and I didn't do it. I didn't rebel. I didn't promote any riots. I didn't do anything seditious, and he didn't. The worst thing he did would be both political and religious, in that he professed Christ as Savior and Lord, and said to be a follower of the way. Remember in John 14:6, Jesus said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me." So now Paul was a follower of the way. And although this was a burgeoning Christian or Jewish sect, Christianity was, it still was unlawful to promote an unauthorized religion in Rome. And also to be mindful that in Roman provinces, there were other religions there, because there were other people. So this was kind of like a slap into the face for Jews, because they felt like they were so distinct and unique. And Paul both merged his Jewish commitment and his newfound love and worship for Jesus Christ. So putting that together really got the Jews angry, and seeing that this was spreading like wildfire throughout Roman provinces really got under the Jews' skin. So that's why the Sanhedrin wanted to kill him. And then Felix in turn heard about all of this. Now Felix had gotten his wife Drusilla through ill-gotten means and may have felt convicted of that. So that's why he didn't let Paul go. And also too, he wanted a bribe, because some people, they pay their way to freedom. So all of that said and done, we have to realize that Paul, standing up as he did, he would have faced retribution from both the Jews and the Romans, but he was protected. He was protected through the various appearances to the Sanhedrin and to Jewish leaders, governors, etc. He was protected. And that was nothing but the grace of God. He had a mission. And so in our application today, I want us to know and realize that when God has called us and has a mission for us in our lives, trials, adversity are gonna come, and they're gonna come so fierce that it may even threaten your life. But be secure in knowing that the good work that God has completed and started in you, he will complete. He will protect you, even if it's the slightest thing as where you were born and you get off. Like what Paul did. He got off because he was born a Roman soldier. He didn't pay for his citizenship. So he was like, okay, I escaped that. The Jews can't kill me. I'm a Roman soldier. And then when he went to Felix, corrupt Felix, he didn't want to kill him either. And so he left it up to somebody else, just left him in jail for another 2 years, and left it up to somebody else to determine the judgment. But he didn't want to kill him, hoping for a bribe in his corrupt nature. Felix was hoping for a bribe to be paid off. So that's why he didn't kill him. And then all of that is just the grace of God upon Paul's life, because of the plan of God that was in Paul's life. And to you, I say, my Oil for the Journey readers, rest in the plan of God for your life. That no matter what the enemy tries to come and put your way to trip you up, no matter what trial or adversity, false accusations, that people try to put before you to trip you up, to make you fall, to make you seem unworthy, to commit you to death, whether spiritually or physically. No matter what, go forth in God. Now remember, as you're going forth in God, God's plan is to love people. God's plan is for us to commit our way to him, to his word. And that's really just God's plan. And it's simple as that. And the enemy is going to try to stop God's plan in your lives. So in this Oil for the Journey reading, do not be dismayed at trials that come your way, for God is more than able to deliver you from any trouble, from all trouble. May God bless you and keep you during this Oil for the Journey oil change.